ServiceM8 is one of the most powerful job management tools on the market. It can help you quote, schedule your jobs, invoice, a whole bunch of other stuff from basically anywhere. But if it's not set up correctly, you could be wasting a ton of time, losing leads, or simply just not winning jobs without you even realizing it. G'day, my name's Dave List from Trade Magnet, and we're a ServiceM8 partner, and we build custom integrations and add-ons for ServiceM8. We do this using custom code, no-code tools such as N8N, and CRM integrations like Go High Level. And one of the biggest things we see are clients coming to us asking for a feature that already exists in ServiceM8. So in this video, I'm going to give you the complete setup, all the way from signing up to invoicing your very first client. Now look, ServiceM8 is packed with features, and this is designed to get you about 90% of the way there. So if you need any extra functionality, you know that you've exhausted all the tools that already exist in ServiceM8. All right, let's get started. Here we are over on the ServiceM8 homepage. And the first thing you're going to need is a company. Of course, you're going to use yours, but I have come up with a mock company for this, and it is PlumTech. We're going to be a plumber today. This is a very basic landing page done on Go High Level. But heading on over to the homepage again, I think the first thing we should do is go over to the pricing tiers to understand exactly what we're going to be getting when we sign up. So in here, we've got 5 different options, and the pricing varies depending on the country you're in, but the tiers basically stay the same. You can actually sign up for free with limited access and use of all the jobs per month and stuff. If you're a sole trader, generally you might go with the starter plan. I find that people scale out of that quite quickly, but I always recommend the growing plan, basically for anybody starting out. The main reason for this really is the ServiceM8 Inbox, to be honest with you. And we'll get into what that is down the track. But you're also limited really by the amount of jobs. So even if you don't need the ServiceM8 Inbox and you're doing beyond 150, you're going to need to go up to the Premium or Premium Plus anyway. So there's a couple of ways that you can sign up to your subscription for ServiceM8, and that is to generally just sign up here for your 14-day free trial. But I will also leave an affiliate link where you can get 30% off for the first 6 months, and you still get the 14-day free trial. So I'm going to sign up here with PlumTech, davidlist.plumtech, to create my first account. Okay, and as we sign up, it's just going to go through a bit of a survey for us, and this is just feedback to ServiceM8 to kind of see where your business is at. We are a plumbing, and it's just, actually, it'll be 2 to 3 people. Our accounting software we're going to be using is Xero. And the reason we're using that is because it's just the most popular. So I apologize for those using QuickBooks or Mile, but the process for setting that up is virtually the same. Your business is PlumTech. And we're going to select and upload a logo. Now, I already have one like in here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this one and next. Okay, so website here is this one, and ABN will be 123789. Okay, and then we're going to get a little introductory video into ServiceM8. And voila, here we are on the dispatch page for ServiceM8. Now you have your account ready to go. You'll notice a few things here is that we have our jobs down the right here. We've got staff members where you as the business owner has already created, and they've done this like helpful little job in here to get started. The first place I really want to go is the homepage. And they do a really nice job of onboarding ServiceM8. So it's a good idea to go through the life cycle of the job, get an understanding outside of this tutorial onto how to do things correctly. But if I was to give you a brief overview of this particular setup, it is that we've got here our feed, and then on the homepage, we've got all these different apps that go to different places. And really, most of what you'll be doing is through the dispatch board. Let's just go through these really quickly. So dispatch boards is where we were before, and we've got down here these tabs for dispatch map, tasks, calendars, staff, and queues. And we'll go through each one of these individually. If we go back to our homepage, history, I don't see a lot of people using history, but it's essentially just a list of your jobs where you can remove or open them. So back to home, clients, This is kind of the cornerstone, and where people get tripped up a lot is it not managing their client database correctly. It's really important for things like reporting down the track. So I often I'm a bit of a stickler for the structure of your clients, and we'll get into how to structure it properly in a minute. But back to home, features and integrations. So ServiceMate has a really good third-party app store with also a whole heap of native integrations that they don't enable straight away, but you can choose to turn on if need be. So you can see under add-ons, couple here that they've already recommended for us because we did our onboarding survey. You've got a whole heap of these different integrations here, and these are created by ServiceMate for you, so you know that they're safe to use and all of that stuff. We've got some really cool stuff here coming in, like phone agents and stuff like that. But if we go down, you can see now there's some third-party add-ons. These are third-party developers like myself that actually create apps to integrate with ServiceMate. And these are all approved by ServiceMate, so they are safe, but you will or you may have to pay extra to use some of these. We'll come back to integrations in a little bit when we kind of enable them as we go. But let's go back to the homepage and quickly go through some of the rest of these apps. Materials and services, this is exactly what it sounds like. It's labor, it's materials. If you wanted to add specific inventory inside of your business, you could do that here. Invoicing. So there's a separate invoicing tab that allows us to come in here, approve our invoicing, go all the way through our integration like Xero, and then approve paid invoices. We'll go through that later on. Reports. This is exactly what it sounds like, reporting. And this is why the structure of your ServiceMate is so important, to make sure that you're actually getting the correct data out at the end, because this is a huge pain point for a lot of tradies that I find, is that they're not getting the right data out. And then we have accounts here, which is kind of just a shortcut back to a lot of other things. But settings is kind of where we need to start. And the first thing that we're going to do here, you'll see that here we have a lot of the same apps that were on home. They were kind of shortcuts. The main thing we want to start with is preferences. We can see here that it's telling me that my ABN is incorrect, and it's probably because it's not the right amount of characters or too many or something, or it's just an invalid ABN. There you go. But that's fine. This has got all of your details here. Importantly, you probably want to put in your correct address for your head office. There are some things and features where it will pinpoint and locate your office. So it's important to make sure that you're putting in the correct office locations. So I'm going to go ahead and just make one up. Victoria 155. Okay, now something that trips people up as well is these operating hours. And these might be specifically the hours that you operate at, but it will also dictate when you can put jobs into your dispatch schedule as well. So I always recommend having a wider window than you may work inside of this particular opening hours. Now, this may, when you do job services and things like that, this may actually be a bit of a hindrance, but we won't go too deep into that. I always recommend an hour either side of when you start and finish. So a lot of tradies will start at 7:30, so we'll go to 6:30 and we'll go to 5:30. Let's do that. I also recommend Saturdays and Sundays to put in your times here. By default, it won't be enabled. Let's go here. And we're going to tick public holidays as well. Okay, I'm going to leave that ABN thing there. Let's go to email settings. This is very straightforward. Generally, we don't change much here, but the email delivery, basically, is it coming from overall the company, or do you want it to come from individual staff members? This is really a personal choice. So generally, I see people just keeping it as a company email address. But if you've got many staff managing many different clients, you may want to have an individual touch. And we're just going to leave this signature as it is for now. But just note these dynamic tags here. It's picking up the staff name, staff title, and the company logo. Invoicing. So amounts are tax inclusive. Generally, I see most people are using exclusive tax. So let's just set that up. Who should appear on the invoice? So I generally have this set to bills to job billing contact. Then we go on to Set your invoice email template. So this is a standard email invoice template. We'll get into documents very shortly. Okay, invoicing terms. This is really, again, up to you guys. 30 days sometimes. I would try to keep it as short as possible. Up to you. These are just your payment methods, and invoicing format down here. So you can set this to, generally we set this to job number and job price. And this is what's going to be shown within the actual invoice. Job settings. Okay, so changes to the cost or price of an item on a job card. So do not update the saved items with a one-off change. That's generally what we set this to. Client name format. So actually, this does depend. A lot of people will set this up for last name and first name. It's really a differentiation between making sure that they're an individual or a company. New job should start as. This is quite important because maybe you don't run quotes in your organization. Maybe you get a lot of jobs from say a maintenance company, and they send you emails, you don't get quotes. Maybe you want them to start out as a work order instead of a quote. Generally, I see people starting out as quotes. Okay, let's go to notifications. We can leave this default. We'll just notify admin when a customer reply received from a customer. Actually, we'll turn that off. We'll turn that. It's an estimates. We'll leave that as is. Regions, set your region. Tasks, we can kind of leave this. And tax settings. Now, this will get updated when we do our integration with Xero. Okay, fairly boring, but preferences are kind of one of the main things that need to get it set up correctly. So let's go back to our settings. Let's make sure we save it. And I think sometimes it doesn't like saving. This is a ServiceM8 thing. Here we go. Looks like it's saved. Let's go back to settings. I'm just going to have to leave. Okay. All right, now let's jump straight into staff. This is the next part that I believe that you'll need to start with. So here you can see that this is myself, and if you had multiple different people, you would invite them here. So let's go ahead and edit your staff member, put in their details. So you can put your mobile number in here, job title, business owner, and you can also, you've got other options through here. So show the staff member on the dispatch board, a couple of other options that you might want to do. Default labor rate for your particular staff member. Most people have this set to just default. Some notification settings, and then diary settings as well. So you can attach different notes, like new notes, to the particular staff member. I don't generally see people using this at all. So let's go ahead and just save this. Okay, back into settings. We've now set up our staff correctly. You as an individual, we've done our preferences. It's time to move into your document templates. So document templates are things like your invoicing and your quotes. And believe it or not, you can actually edit these. So by default, these are okay. They actually get, a lot of people keep these default for a long time before they want to edit them and style them. There is one thing missing from these, and it is this actual invoicing template settings here. So importantly, you obviously want to have your BSB and account number associated with your invoice when you send it in. And for both an invoice and a quote, you can download this template and you can edit it in Microsoft Word. And note, you need to have Microsoft Word to do this. But to do this, you would just go down here and you would click here. So start downloading, which is kind of bizarre to me. But you click that and it'll actually download into your downloads folder. And I'm going to go and give you a preview, one I prepared earlier, what it's going to look like. Now, of course, it doesn't have all of the details populated that you would have seen before because they use dynamic tags. They use merge fields. And I'm not going to get too deep into merge fields, but I will show you how to edit them and how to reference the actual dynamic tags that they have available to you. So let's go ahead here and look at this work done description. What does that mean, or where does it come from? How do you know whether to put that in? So if I go over to this page, this help document here, these are all of the fields for invoicing and quoting and forms, as we'll get into later on down the track, where you can actually add these dynamic fields. So you can see here, there's some field names for job date, quote date, all of these different fields you can put in to get them dynamically populated. Now, something that's quite interesting is that the actual BSB account number stuff is actually not listed here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. But let's have a look at work done description. So that is up, would be under job, and this is work done description. So you can see this dynamic tag here, but it's not as simple as just typing it in. What you've got to do is put it into a merge field. Now, luckily for you, if you download the template, it's already in a merge field, which kind of gets indicated by these arrows either side. What you want to do to try and change this is right click and toggle field codes. You'll see these merge field tags at the start and at the end. We don't want to do that. We don't want to touch them. If you wanted to change this to anything, you would just need to swap out the dynamic code here. Let's say we wanted to make this the job generated ID. Let's jump back into here. Okay. Now what we need to do is we can toggle that field. Watch this. We can toggle the field, goes back to work done description. What we actually need to do to commit that to this actual, this document is update the field. And you'll see that's going to generated job ID. I want to change that back. So I'm just going to go Control Z and I'll toggle the field to see if it, yep, that's worked. So I'll toggle that back. Now, the BSB and account numbers for those that can't find them are down here. And if I toggle these fields, you'll see that it's bank underscore name for the bank name. And it's the same for the BSB, bank underscore BSB, and then bank underscore account. What I'm going to do is, now that I'm happy with those, and I'm going to toggle this back and I've saved this, I'm now going to upload this to my invoice. So here, if I go to this button down here, upload custom invoice template, and here is my template in downloads, attach. Okay, now you can see that these fields have been populated in the footer of this document. And if I edit any of these, so you'll see that this will start populating. It will if we go in and out of it. But basically now you have the ability to control your BSB and account number outside of the document itself. And we're just going to save these settings. And you can see now that they've changed. So that is how you actually update those settings. Now, you can do whatever you want in your template, but just note there are a couple of gotchas inside of there, and they've got some really good documentation on forms and document templates if you want to get a bit deeper into it. But the same goes for quote. If you wanted to download the quote and you wanted to go ahead and upload a new one, it's basically the same thing with all of the dynamic tags and everything like that. That is how you would do some quotes and invoicing templates. Just one caveat to this is that a lot of people might want to add things like an invoice or quote without pricing on it or line items. I'll quickly go through a quote that you could add without line items or materials. And let's just quickly download this quote template. I'm going to open it up. You can see under the description here, we have job materials name. I'm going to start editing this. What we're going to do is just going to take this entire row out. Let's go to, actually what I might do is, you can play around with this as you see fit. I'm actually just going to delete these particular fields. This is not a very clean way to do it. But what we're going to do is it's just going to show the actual name of the particular material. And more importantly, you do want to keep these are called bookmarks, these little, let's try and zoom in here. These things that kind of look like, I don't know, they look like I-beams. You want to keep them in because that's going to iterate and loop over each one of those items inside of your job card. You'll understand what I mean soon. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this and go back to our job. Now, I do want to keep this original default quote. So what I'm going to do is go to new template quote. Okay, I'll just call this no item pricing. Yeah, it's having a good old think. Sometimes ServiceM8 does this. There it is. And by default, it's just going to load the original default quote. But we want to upload what was without any of those items. So let's go ahead and upload, and we'll use the quote template. I recommend renaming so you don't get all of these lost. And here we go here. So we've removed all that pricing, but if we go back to our default quote, all that pricing exists. So that's just a way that you can manipulate, edit, and add as many templates that you like to fit your business. Okay, the next one along is job categories. Job categories are fairly straightforward, but it is very important to have these set up before you begin so that as you iterate through, as you grow, you can report on these correctly. So for a, look, some people might want to keep the standard ones, but I don't think a lot of them make sense. So for a plumber, for instance, you might have a bunch of different types of plumbing services that you do. And after hours, I don't think really makes sense for here. So what I'm going to do is toilet, and I'm not going to select any colors. Colors, by the way, I find to be completely irrelevant, so don't stress about that. We're going to add a category, and we're going to call this relining, and we're going to call this gutters and remodeling. Oh, bathroom. Now, this really does depend on your business and what type of things that you're doing. For Sparkies, things like switchboard changeovers, rewires will come to mind, stuff like that. But just make sure you get, you make sure that you put down the categories that make sense for you. Okay, now let's jump into materials and services. Okay, so this can get quite crazy in here. Often some people would like to import a lot of their supplier lists from Reese, from your electrical wholesaler, wherever it is. The problem is that you generally don't understand what item codes reference particular materials or labor or something like that. It gets overwhelming, particularly for your staff if people are quoting where they have to select like correct item numbers. So what I recommend is a very, very simple setup, and you'll understand when I start the job later on why I've done this. So if we go into edit and we go to labor, this is base labor costs. I'm just going to exclude GST from this one. Let's make labor $100 just to make it easy for ourselves. If you want to get into like the price that it costs you to have labor, that's fine. But that is basically it. I'm just going to save this. Let's add another one. And this one is going to be labor 1.5. And you probably know where this is going. So we name it the same thing. And this is $150. Price, no, does not include GST. Let's add another. Labor 2 and 200. Save. Great. So now we have the different item codes for your time and a half and double time. But now let's jump into materials. Now, a lot of people would get like over ambitious about their materials. This is exactly how I like to set up my materials. Materials. Price is $1. We save. They are all the materials you need for ServiceM8. And this is going to save you a ton of time and confusion. Trust me. People go and import their lists and come back to me and say, no, I want to get rid of them because it's too confusing. So let's go ahead and add one more material. So subcontractor, and we'll just do subcontractor. And the price for this is going to, actually, let's just say you do have a subcontractor price, $150. You know that's what that's going to cost you. Fantastic. So we have 5 items here, super simple. And you'll understand why it needs to be this simple when we go into the billing part when we create a job. Okay, job queues. Let's jump into job queues. So this is really about where the job currently sits if it's not completed in some sort of stage. It could be completed, but in general, these are really like holds on the job. So you can see here we've got things like parts on order, pending quote, workshop. Maybe they need to work in the workshop. And I think this is going to be better explained when we actually set the job up and we start going through. So I'm going to leave these default for now. Okay, next are the SMS and email templates. So let's start with SMS. This is super straightforward. I don't think I need to go too deep into this for you. They've got some default ones here that are pretty good. But essentially, if you were to go into edit one of these, you could see basically parts order template. You can select any of these SMS and email templates when you're in a job and send it to the client. So that's pretty much how that works. So let's go ahead, get out of this. You can go through these as you see fit, but you can edit and create as many of these as you like. Okay, great. You've set up a lot of the basics already, but now we need to integrate our accounting software. And for that, we're going to use Xero. So let's go ahead and go to our add-ons, and it's recommending it to us because of the survey that we did earlier. Hit connect. It's going to ask you to log in. If you're already logged in, it's probably just going to ask you for some permissions. So I'm just going to log in here. It's asking me to do multi-factor, not now. Okay, it wants to create and get access to Trade Magnet. And you really don't have a choice here. If you're going to integrate, you just have to go ahead and click all the allow accesses. And it's kind of that simple. We are all set up and we'll be able to integrate with Xero when our invoicing starts to get sent through. So it's not that easy and we're not done yet. You do need to go to your preferences and invoicing, and we're just going to set up a couple of quick details to make sure it syncs properly. So I just need to preface that I am not an accounting professional. I cannot give any financial advice, but this is how I would set up my own instance. So you come here now in invoicing, you'll have this new section Xero. This would be the same for QuickBooks and MYOB integration, by the way. We're going to set it the default income for new items. These are new invoices coming in to Xero in the sales. So down here, we're going to have default account for payments. Now, if you've got it up and synced your account to your bank account, this may be here. I'm just going to do the business account, which was a manual one I set up. A lot of these we would just set up as you're going to leave as default. So contact method, first name, last names, exclusive, inclusive tax, of course, exclusive for us. Send voices to Xero as approved. I think this is a fairly important one. And it really depends on the workflow, whether you've got a bookkeeper or someone like that. Generally, I see people setting this to approved. Okay, and we leave this one here, use ServiceMate job numbers for invoicing. This allows you to match your invoice from ServiceMate to Xero. I think it's fairly important, right? That's basically it. And then we go down and hit save. Okay, now that you have your accounting package set up, we're going to set up ServiceM8 Pay. And this is going to allow us to take online payments. So things like deposits for your quotes, all of your invoicing, and if you want to take payments on site via your mobile device as well, you can do that. Go over to your add-ons and click ServiceM8 Pay and hit connect. Now, ServiceM8 Pay is actually integrated with Stripe. So I'm not going to go over how to create an account with Stripe. There are some tutorials out there on how to do it. It is quite involved. You are going to need a fair few government documents plus photo ID to make sure that you're the right person setting up this account. But once you've done that, you can go ahead and set up your ServiceM8 Pay account. Okay, I'm already signed in. And the first one that I have multiple different Stripe accounts, but the first one you're probably going to have is just one, is Plumtech. So I'm going to select that and continue. And it's going to ask you a couple of questions about the structure of the business, but if you've previously set this up, there shouldn't be any issues. We're going to go ahead and agree and submit. All right, once you've linked your Stripe account, it's going to redirect you to ServiceMate, where it's going to ask you a couple of things before finishing. This one here is about this surcharge fee that gets applied to all transactions. So you can choose never, or for payments over 500 up to 5,000, or you could just apply always. This is really a personal choice about how you're going to pass these fees on, whether you incur them yourself, whatever. I'm going to do always for every transaction. Next. Now on the next page, it's going to ask you whether you want to automatically reconcile or whether you want to manually reconcile the invoices against the payments from Stripe. Now, a few caveats that you need to understand about Stripe. Stripe does not pay you upon every invoice or transaction that gets paid to Stripe. They actually do payouts. So depending on what you've selected, weeks or days, it's going to give you a bulk payout based on the amount of invoices that's collected. So if you had 5 invoices for one day, it's going to pay you all those in a bulk lot minus the processing fees into your bank account. So what I generally recommend for people starting out when you've got very little transactions is to actually manually reconcile these, because you may have 3 invoices that get paid out in a one bulk transaction, And then you have to go in there and you'll have to split that transaction in that account and then reconcile against the invoices. I hope that makes sense, but I'm going to go ahead and select no, I'll reconcile ServiceM8 Pay transactions manually. Okay, now there's not much more we can do here. We're just going to go ahead and hit finish. And now we've fully integrated ServiceM8 Pay. Super cool. All right, we are almost ready to start our first job, but we're going to enable some add-ons that weren't already turned on when we started our account. This will just give us extra functionality across the board. So if you go to your add-ons, you'll see that I've got this on like indicator badge up the top here. I've already enabled them, but go through at your leisure and turn them on. So I've got forms, staff leave, zero integration, of course, badges, automations, partial progress invoicing, advanced photo branding, not necessary, but I think is cool. Email inbox. This was the reason that we purchased the growing plan, was actually to get this email inbox. So super important, turn that on. Job allocations, track my arrival. And you'll notice that some of these say free premium. Generally I'd turn on job costings, but that is premium plan only. A couple of things here that aren't really necessary. Job templates, we're going to turn that on. Proposals, this is already, ignore that. Location insights, ServiceM8 Pay, of course. Simple online inquiry form, contacts, supplier invoice import, and advanced job cards. So go and turn them on if they're not already turned on. Finally, we get to start our first job in ServiceM8. And I'm over in the dispatch board. I want to quickly go over the layout so you get your bearings. Here we're in staff schedules, and this is where you're going to be spending most of your time. We have some other tabs that I went over in the very beginning, and this is the dispatch map. Now this is quite accurate and is linked really to devices that your technicians are using out in the field. ServiceM8 is really iOS native. They do have Android, but if they've got precise location enabled on their iPhone or tablets, then this is quite accurate. You'll be able to track and it'll be able to actually do some auto routing as well. Next is tasks. Tasks are kind of really being superseded by checklists. I don't see a lot of people using this tab, to be perfectly honest with you. Calendars. Now calendars can actually be synced with your calendars, which is outside of the scope of this particular video, but it's kind of the same as a staff schedule, just in a calendar view. Okay, staff schedules. This kind of is more like an allocation lotting of all of the jobs. And like I said, it's mostly where people spend most of their time. Queues. I briefly went over queues when we were in our settings, but this is, you'll see a list of jobs associated with each queue if you assign them to a particular queue here. Kind of like a Kanban board type style. Okay, now we're going to create our first job. So over on the dispatch board, we're going to leave this sample job here and we're just going to go up to actions, new job. So you can see a couple of things immediately on the job card is that we can either search or create a brand new client. And if you search the database, you'll see any existing clients come up here. And I created one earlier, ABC client. And that will pre-populate all of the primary details from the contacts and things like that. But let's go ahead and just create a brand new one called test client. And you can create one on the fly. So now we have test client. And we're going to add some details about this, like the job location. Let's just see 123 Queen Street. And because we have location insights enabled on our add-ons, it's going to give us some information and may even add some photos, which is kind of cool. Now, if you go over here, you'll find badges. Badges are, at their simplest, are really more of a visual indicator. A good example of this is someone that's a VIP. Your technician might look at this and think this is a VIP customer. And then at their most technical or complicated, they could be associated with a form or an automation. So if we were to check JSA, the technician knows that he needs to go and complete this particular JSA form, and we'll get into forms a bit later. But if we go down, we can see the job status. There are 4 unique and distinct statuses when you're working in ServiceM8. That's quote, work order, completed, and unsuccessful. They're all fairly self-explanatory, but do kind of sometimes link to some of the automations and the settings, particularly with completed. You can process invoice after that's set to complete. So try and follow this as best as you can. Job category is toilet. We set these up earlier. PO number is really a free text field. It can be associated with things like an actual purchase order system externally you might have. Or I do see people actually using this for like work orders for actual clients. So if you do a lot of maintenance, you might have a work order from that client you put in here as a reference. But this is a job description. It's very, very, very simple and self-explanatory. Fix toilet. Checklists are kind of like tasks. So if we go to do JSA, not that that really matters because we've got the J. When we add forms, they can actually, they'll add down here in a separate checklist. And then maybe we'll do fix toilet. If we go to the actual job contact, and this is kind of important because this is the person associated with the job and who you're going to be sending all these different details to. So this is Joe Legend. His email, we're going to actually put in a real email at gmail.com. And the phone number, mobile number is going to be my trade magnet number. So we're going to put that in and saved. Now, if we go to the client itself and we get out of this job, you'll find that it actually would have added all these details to the client list. And it's important to keep these clients associated with their jobs because that's going to help us with reporting down the track. Okay, now we have the job diary. And this is where you want to put all of the details associated with the job. Not only that, anything that actually happens on the job, like actions such as an invoice gets sent, any emails or SMSs, they'll all end up in the job diary and in a chronological list that you can reference later on. It's very, very cool. So you can attach things like videos, photos, just do notes. So at the quote stage, this might be when the technician gets on site and they add details about what they've seen. Or you may want to pre-add some stuff in like, I know this client or something like that, right? So this is where you would add all of those particular details. And along here, this is just some quick ways that you can get to photos and documents. But to see the whole entire job notes here, you just go up to this little icon. Now, a couple other things on the top here, we've got emails. So you can email and SMS your client from here. And because we've added that job contact, you can see here is our signature that we had set default earlier in preferences. So we'll leave that. You can attach files like any other email. And when we send it off, it's going to go into this particular job diary. So you can also do the same with SMSs, and SMS and email templates like we went over in the settings are all here. So SMS the invoice, it's going to do a smart link. We'll get into that. But you can do these manually on the fly. Schedule, you can schedule a job from the actual job itself in this schedule tab, and you can select a staff member and it will automatically try and find some time to allocate that, or you can manually do it. So we'll close that. Queues, we went over queues before. So if the actual job needs to go into like parts on order, pending quotes, wherever, you would add it to the job queue here. Forms, so forms like we'll go over in a little bit more detail, but these are things that can be filled out on the job or after the job is done for reporting or something. And you can also do like custom templates like we went over in job document templates. Proposals is like a fun, pretty way to make quotes. And here we've got a couple more options for like apply template and printing. Okay, now that we have our actual job, fixed toilet, and it's at 123 Queen Street, we're going to go to billing. Let's go same as job address. And the quote details, I'm going to leave all this blank, okay? And we're going to go actually set this as is. And we're going to leave it and we're going to go and give this to David. So let's go ahead, get out of this job, and we're going to assign this to David for 4. Okay, view your schedule on your iPhone. Yes, I do believe. So view your schedule on your iPhone by sending yourself a text message. Just type in this and press. So we don't need to do this, although you could. What we're going to do is download the app, and I'm going to go through what it looks like on site. So if you're a technician, let's assume that you've been assigned to this by your boss, or maybe you've pre-done this as a sole trader. you've done this job the night before, preset it up, and you know in the morning that's where you're going. So now you're going to want to go and download the ServiceM8 app from the App Store. Once you've done that, go ahead and go into the app, sign in, and the first thing that you'll be presented with is this activity feed. I don't see a lot of people using this feed, to be honest with you, but you can post messages just like you can on the homepage over here. Let's go back to the dispatch board. What we're concerned about down here is this menu. So we've got jobs, notifications, and if we go down here to more, you'll find that here is kind of mirroring a lot of the features and functionality on the desktop. But what you'll find is if you've got restricted permissions, remember I'm the owner of the account. And if you assign someone a staff, they may or may not see some of these settings. So just be aware of what permissions you give to your particular staff. What I want to go to is jobs. So in this is your jobs board, and you'll see here you've got today, my schedule, any jobs that requiring action or for your review. You've also got staff, queues, and jobs. And this job filter really just mirrors this job filter down here. Again, if they don't have the correct permissions, they may or may not be able to see this, nor will they be able to create a job. So you could actually create a job from here if you wanted to. But what we actually are concerned about is this particular job we're doing today, which is this test client. So let's assume that we are going to this job. We've had a look at it. It's in our queue, or sorry, it should be in our dispatch schedule. Then we'll go ahead and we can see all the details associated with this. We can see the badge that was in it, what the job description is, fix a toilet. Now we know this is a quote and we need to go to site to actually get to the quote. So let's go ahead and just start this job. Now in here, there's a couple of different options. We can view the client, but what we actually want to do is go to navigate to job. So we can go ahead. Do we want to notify the client? Yes. So navigating to the job now, and the client is actually going to get a SMS to say you've actually, and here, because I'm actually using Go High Level for my phone number, this would actually go to the client's text message or whatever mobile number they've given. So if I go into here, you can see this is the courtesy message to say that they're on their way. Approximately 36 minutes, which is not overly accurate. But let's go ahead. So this is the client, and they can actually track this particular arrival. So let's go to here. I can see that I am 55 minutes away, which is kind of crazy, right? So if you wanted that feature, that was an add-on that got added in the add-on store. So this will not work unless you've got that on. Let's see what else they can do. So if we go back here, you'll notice there was another link. So you can reply here. So you can see the job, and maybe they got that message and they were like, remember this would be on their mobile device. Thanks, I'll be waiting. And we can go over here, go back to our job, go into it. See here that it actually says, I'll be waiting. Super cool. Okay, back on our mobile device. We're still navigating to the job, but let's go ahead. We want to go back, go in here, and let's just say we want to arrive at the actual job. So we're going to arrive, and now we are checked into the job. We're here, and we're going to want to go and actually make sure that we provide all the information for the quote. So let's go to the best way to do this often is to add notes. So down here, you've got this quick bar where you can add different notes. So you've got a job note, you've got a photo, you can do email or SMS. Then you've got a whole heap of other stuff that you can do as well. So all these actions inside of here. But let's just go to notes, add a note. So no, we don't need a new toilet, just a repair. And let's just do that. So again, we can share this to our activity feed if we really wanted to. Okay, so it's just a repair. Then we can also add a photo as well if we really wanted to. So if we go here, you can add a photo. Let's assume that this is actually a, well, that's a bad photo of ourselves. Save. And you can see, go to the diary, that's been added. Sometimes this takes a little bit to refresh. Let's just get out and in again. See, there's that photo added. That's terrible. But you get the gist. It could be a photo of a toilet, whatever it is. Okay, so now let's assume that that quote is done. The client does not want to go. They don't know whether they want to go ahead with it, but it needs to be quoted up with the office. So you could either do the quote immediately on the phone, or you could basically put it into a queue, waiting for somebody to quote it. There's multiple different ways to do it. What I do see is that sometimes that a lot of businesses would have like an owner, and then their workers would go out and they would get all the information for the quote, and then the owner would go ahead and actually add all the details for the quote and quote it up. So let's go with that route here. So let's assume you finish this quote, you're going off site, you're not going to do anything currently. So we're going to go so ready to quote. So this has got, what's great is it's got all of the travel time. Ready to quote. Do you have any job notes? Now we added some before, so let's just skip, and we're going to put this into a queue. So I'm going to go pending quote. Now we can add the actual billing details here. So if you were going to do all of the details, you could, but we're just going to finish. Okay, that's gone to the actual queue. So what we're going to do, we're just going to cancel down here. We don't have a template. So this has been sent to an actual queue. And if we get out and we go to our job queues, we can see pending quotes. We now have this test client. Now that's in here, the boss might want to get in a manager, an estimator, and they've seen these job notes. They're terrible job notes, by the way. They should be better than that. They're going to quote this job up. Let's go ahead and use AI to actually just get the description. It's going to scan the job notes. So investigate and repair existing toilet, assess and determine the cause. If this is all good for you, you can do that. Here, what we're going to do is add some of our materials. Now, I actually went in and recreated this and did a call out fee as well. So let's assume we did a call out fee. We've got some labor, and let's just say it's going to take 4 hours, and we're going to do materials, and we're going to change this toilet parts. I don't know what toilet parts is required, but let's just say it's going to cost. It's a major overhaul. Let's do 550. Okay, so that's all the items we need. Right, now we want to go and send the client this quote. So we can go here. And now a couple of things to mention is that we can go down to customize quote. I'll just go and remove that mobile for the moment. We can see this quote here. Remember we made another template. We can go to no item pricing. If we would go here, it's going to show us those particular items, but without the prices. So that's why it would have been handy to actually have a different template. If we go here and just go normal quote, note that it says deposit required. If we were to go and just hit send quote here, it'll populate everything for us. And that default amount or deposit is going to be applied just in the background. So this is the email that's going to go to the client. And let's just attach this photo, assume that that was a toilet. Okay, and we're going to send this off. So let's send this. All right, so now it's waiting. And if we go back, you can see that this email was sent. It's got the attached quote. We're all good. So let's go actually to our client. Refresh. Okay, so our client now has received this particular quote. You can see it's got the attachment here, terrible photo. And then we've got the actual quote itself. Very cool. What's even cooler is that now they have this smart link, and it's also linked up here. So if we're going to view the quote, the client can see this, and then they can go ahead and go accept quote. They'll sign their name. Next. Because we've set up a 50% deposit, we're now going to collect deposits. Remember, we could have done a customized one and actually done 0. But right here, they're going to go ahead and set their, so we could pay another way here because I'm set up with linked, which is through Stripe. We can go ahead and actually add our own credit card details and then pay. I'm not going to do that because it's live, right? But assume you did, once you paid, you would accept that quote. And I could actually demonstrate this by putting 0 deposit, but you get the gist, right? Which is great. You've collected 50%, including that particular fee on top, because that's what we opted to do. Once it's accepted, we're going to actually go back into our instance here, and it's still in quote, but when it's accepted, it will actually turn into work order. Now, interesting to note, a lot of people say to me, well, what if they reply to me and say, yep, accepted without paying or something like that? It's up to you, but you can actually go in and just go status work order. So now we've got the job. We don't actually want this to be in the queue itself. get out of it, and we can right click and just remove from this queue. So now that we've removed it and we're good to go, we can now schedule this again. So we staff schedule, and we can see it was scheduled, but we can reschedule it. If we were to go to tomorrow, just add this down here. You can see for 9 o'clock tomorrow. Now let's go ahead and go back into our mobile. Okay, back over to our mobile view now, we can actually see that we've got today and my schedule. Here we want to go to my schedule because it's scheduled for tomorrow. So you can see here we've got a schedule here. Same job, different instance. And we can go ahead and do exactly the same thing that we did with the quote. Same instance, we could notify the client. Let's just skip navigation. And actually, I'm going to not notify the client and skip navigation here. And we're just going to check in. Now we're on the job. Great. So they can go ahead and fill out the form. They can do the checklist. So do JSA, fix toilet. So this form here, if they check here, this is a JSA form, and they'll just go through. I'm just going to really quickly go through this here. Overall risk, no. Tap to sign. I might have to do that on my mobile here because it's a bit funny. Save. Fantastic. We're going to save that. And now if we go to our job diary, actually see we have the form submitted, and we actually have the PDF for that particular safety JSA, which is really cool. So we all have all of these details, and let's go to job back, and we're going to have a job note here. All fixed. Okay. And we're going to check out. Now, a couple of different ways that you could potentially do this is you could go to not complete and put it into a queue. Or you could get your workers to actually complete the job. So let's go to complete. We'll skip this. We want to finish. A couple of things here is that do we want to actually produce this receipt or do we want to approve the invoice to 0? So this is actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting for us. Let's go ahead and produce the invoice receipt and go finish. Here we go. Here is the invoice here. Now we could either send this directly to the client because it's in the job card. So if we go in here, you can see here that it's been created, but we need to actually send this to the client. So let's go ahead and send the invoice. So let's send this back to the invoice to the client. A couple of things happen when they do this. Let's get out of this here. We can see here's the invoice. They can pay via this pay link. So pay now, same thing. They're going to pay the whole. Now, if they did a deposit, it would only be 50%. We're going to get out of this. We're not going to pay. Go over here. And now currently this is in completed waiting for payment. If they pay online, it's going to immediately go ahead and accept the payment straight away. Let's assume that they don't pay online and they're going to pay via your BSB account. Let's go ahead to invoicing now. Remember we set up manual reconciliation. So go ahead and okay. Also, we've got all here, awaiting approval, awaiting payment, and paid. Here, we're going to go into awaiting approval. We're going to select our particular job and we want to approve. So remember, we're waiting for it to be sent to 0. And let's actually open up 0 to see what we've got. Okay, so now I've logged into 0 and I'm going to be waiting to see what happens when I go and approve this particular invoice. So let's approve this and it's going to send to 0 and we'll wait and we'll wait, we'll wait. If the connection is correct, it should actually go off and send and tick. Here we go. So we've got a green tick here. Now let's go to 0 and we may need to just do a bit of a refresh here. Wow, look at that. So now we have, we've created an invoice. So let's actually go into our invoices. We've got a test client. So the client's been added. We can, I haven't set up my invoices correctly, but you can see here that it's got all these line items as well associated with it and the actual description. This here, when you get a BSB transfer, account transfer, will automatically reconcile if you've set up your bank fee correctly. And you can just set up your reconciliation that way. But let's assume that we've got this payment and we're awaiting for payment. Again, if this happens via ServiceM8 Pay, it kind of automatically does it itself. Let's go into here and we're going to receive payment. Let's just say it was FPOS. It was the full amount. Do we want to know? Just add payment. All right. Then we can go to paid and it's been paid. That was the full life cycle of a job. The only thing we missed out on was an unsuccessful job. Essentially, you manually put it into unsuccessful and it sits in there. Now let's look at the ServiceMate mail inbox to see how that works and how we can convert it into jobs. So you can see here we have our ServiceMate mail inbox. And if we go to account, settings, you can see mail inbox here. We have this email address. And remember, this was one of the main reasons that we wanted to get the growing plan. We can copy to the clipboard and we're going to go to our customer's email and we're going to actually compose an email here. So let's just say the subject was, hi there. And typically what you would do is send maybe your web form submissions into this email inbox. Anything that you really want to forward into it, for instance, my name is Arthur and I need some help with repairing my gutters. So let's send that in, go back to our dashboard, and in our inbox here, we should be able to receive that particular email. So sometimes we just need to give it a bit of time. Here we go. We've got an email inbox. So it came from Trade Magnet. My name is Arthur. So we can either attach this to an existing job if we knew that that's what it kind of was, or we can convert this to a job. You can see it's added Trade Magnet as a client. It's attached the email. And because it came from apps at Trade Magnet, it's added that as the client. Right, so now you actually have some details. You can see hi there, that came from the actual subject. So it's not overly comprehensive, but it does also depend on how much information is inside the body of the email. This also works really great if you want to send in invoices to this particular inbox or any other documentation. And you can go ahead and then use that and create jobs. So from here, you can actually go ahead and email them like you would on a job as well, or SMS. This becomes super powerful when you've got multiple different things that you want to send into your own ServiceMate. So I really, really like this feature. I think it's absolutely necessary to actually facilitate a lot of your incoming leads. So let's get out of this. Now, another feature that a lot of people look over is the simple online inquiry. And if we were to go to this particular online inquiry here, you can see that it's using all of our branding. And what this is just a simple form to upload stuff for a client. So let's go over to our actual website, and we can actually attach this to a button, schedule an appointment, or we could kind of embed it anywhere. But let's go ahead and kind of fill it in. Let's go testing, test dude, need help with toilet. Let's attach a photo. Here we go. Let's just, okay, submit. Now, what they've actually done is these follow-up questions inside the simple inquiry form. It's really cool. It's kind of AI driven. So is your toilet not flushing properly? It's broken. Have you noticed any leaks? Yes. When did this, it started yesterday. Let's update this, and that'll take us back to if we had a redirect. Oh yeah, so it redirects back to the actual website that we put into our preferences. Now let's go into our inbox. Now this is why it was kind of so important to have this inbox, is that now we'll get this inquiry and it's got all these details. It's so cool. It's got all these details and we're going to just convert that to a job straight away. So we've got it here, we've got testing, and we've got all the details from the job, including the attachments. Very cool. Now, I quickly want to go over automations and forms. So let's go into settings and automations. So if we were to set up any of these, you would just click quote follow-up. I actually see people turn off payment follow-up because if you're not reconciling all the time, they can get these payments once they've already paid. So we'll just leave that off. Booking confirmation, booking reminders. And that's probably pretty much it that I see. All right, so let's just have a look at what a booking reminder is. So let's go in here. It's going to do just some, you can change all this if you want, but by default, it's probably good enough. Go next. And this is going to send messages for booking confirmation between 7 and 7 p.m. Booking reminders, same thing. So we actually want to send a text message and how many hours before the booking for the email and the SMS. Continue. We're going to use the defaults. Finish. Now, booking reminders does require you to actually add a badge. Now, quote follow-up. This is quite important. So how many times do you want to automatically follow up, if it hasn't been accepted? So we're going to follow up 1 hour. It's pretty aggressive. 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, 21 days. And if it doesn't, the job is not accepted within 60 days, we're going to make it unsuccessful. So again, we're going to go next with these defaults. And these are each individual one. So let's see, next, next, next. Just by having these enabled, you're already leveling up in trying to get those quotes through and get those clients actually converted. That's the base automations here. Now, we can get into badges a little bit more too. If you want to do a badge follow-up, you can, let's just do test, and it will just do a follow-up. It'll just be an email. 6 months after job completion. So this would be a really good one if you've got annual inspection. You're like reoccurring inspections. So skip sending if new job is created on the same client. So that's a good idea, right? I'm not going to send a message. So test. Okay, great. One last thing, settings, forms. And here is where we saw our job safety analysis form. And we can actually add all sorts of forms by manually, or we can go to the form store. And a lot of other partners like myself have created forms so that you can just manually import them. So you can purchase them one time and then import them and actually get going straight away. So there's some stuff here like you've got JSAs, you've got safety compliance stuff. So pretty cool stuff if you want to do that. So from here, I'm going to show you what it looks like inside the form builder. So let's go here to this JSA and open the form. You can see here are the questions that we answered. So you can go, this is just a brief overview. If we were to go to this, download the current template, let's do that and open it up. You can see it's got all these merge fields like we saw on the document templates. So the only differences here is that when we have actual input data, we need to use the form response dynamic tags. What I mean by that is you'll see here, we have form hazard. And if I was to go to here, see form hazard. So it's not much different. It's that you're creating your own dynamic fields. And you can do multiple choice. You can do text fields, multi-line numbers, dates, and all sorts of stuff, including photos and signatures. It is really, really comprehensive, and they've got some great documentation out there on how to do it. Now, if you've made it this far and you've implemented all the features that I've showed you, you're probably ahead of 90% of people using ServiceM8 right now. And if you need any more functionality or automations, I'm going to leave all my contact info in the description below. Also, drop a comment. Were there any features that I missed that you would like me to make videos about in the future? Until next time, thanks very much, you legend.